Welcome in to Nights of the Storm. Today is June 6th, 2026, and it's great to see everybody today. And welcome to everybody who's joining us in the future. And with me today, I have my dynamic and charismatic co host, Ashley, and the Kitty Crew. How are you doing, Ashley? Great job today on America Unplugged.
Thank you. And thank you for that wonderful introduction. We're going to be going by the Kitty Crew from now going forward. So thank you for that. We all love it. And I do have Tommy Kitten over here by my side, keeping me company as we brave into the topics that you have prepared for us today, Karen.
Well, I have to give credit where credit is due. There is a man on YouTube. It's called his name is Mr. Tom's name, and he does videos. He lives in Alabama. He's retired. He's by himself, and he does just videos of cooking and trips to the store, everyday life videos. He's been there for quite some time, and he takes care of several cats. Some are indoor cats, some are outdoor. So he's a keeper of the cats, and he calls them the Kitty Crew. So it's Mr. Tom, and it's Mr. Tom Deep South Bama, I think is the name of his channel. He's a very sweet man, and he takes care of his kitty crew. So that's where that term comes from. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Tom. And I just noticed there's a member of my kitty crew that's that is a stowaway today in this. So we may have an appearance of my huge cat too. So it was an interesting week with my kitties. So what I wanted to talk about, or what we wanted to sort of talk about today, was propaganda and commercials and the ways that we're manipulated. Many of us are trying to rethink or constantly, as Ashley's motto is, think, change, repeat. And I evaluate what I think and why, and look at all different kinds of sources. And most of us have realized, long ago, that the MSM, as they call it, or the Fox News and the corporate news sources are all pretty well consolidated and manipulated. And we know about the Smith-Mundt Act, that it's illegal to propagandize the citizens. And so we're pretty well aware of what's going on with what's, for example, on television. But I think we also need to think about the fact that so much of the same tools and propaganda and persuasion tools, manipulation tools, advertising tools, and psychological tools, social engineering, as it's been called, social engineering, are also being used in the alternative media. So many of these people are working for corporate sponsors, working for military contractors, working for various corporations, various intelligence agencies. And we've known this about, for example, CBS, NBC, Walter Cronkite, et cetera. Most of us are very well aware of that. But we also need to take into consideration, I think, more that this is happening in many of the sources that we trust, or that we turned to when we turned away from the mainstream. We turned toward the alternative, which is, and of course, the same techniques and agendas are at work in many of those presenters and news sources as well. And I think most of us are aware of that, or at least we're becoming more aware. So I just wanted to give that little bit of introduction there. And this is where I just got started thinking about old commercials and the tools that they used, the ways that they persuaded us, and how much they've changed over the years. The tools of persuasion they have definitely changed. They've become more sophisticated. I think they've become harder to spot, maybe perhaps more electrical or EMF frequency wise. But there's always been, for example, subliminal images in advertising, or subliminal audio in, for example, department stores, things that are outside of our visible and audible spectrum of the EMF spectrum that our senses don't pick up, but that are there and that our brain can register. My dad taught English, but he taught a unit on propaganda to all of his English classes, and he showed pictures of like the ice cubes in a glass with the vodka bottle, and then there's suggestive pictures in the ice cubes, which you don't see consciously, but your subconscious sees that, and of course attracts you to that brand of alcohol because there are naked women in the ice cubes. So, subconsciously or subliminally. So we know that those things have been employed for a very, very long time. So Ashley, any comments there before I launch into a video?
Yes, I think that this is a more important topic than ever, or it's always gaining in importance. And we've talked about some things, how we're going to sort of weave through what we brought today, but basically I believe this just reiterates what you said, in that this is a really old technique, very old, and maybe we don't even know truly, how far back this goes, because of course, like when you are in positions of power and wealth and you have the potential to manage the working class or the pleb class or whatever you want to call that, then it would probably have happened like as early as humans have been interacting, that you had people trying to manipulate or sway them, and it can come through in a million different ways. So we have like what Karen is talking about, we have commercials and propaganda and predictive programming and subliminal imaging, and the fact that some of the head honchos for this movement have even said that the signs, the symbols, these things are so important into propaganda and controlling the masses. And then obviously these techniques have become much more sophisticated in a time when they can get real feedback automatically, because they're checking digitally, they're watching people's search history and what your interaction looks like. And we're going to get into that a little bit. But before you start showing your video, Karen, I have just one quote. I have several that we can go through today, but I'm going to kick it off with Niccolo Machiavelli from The Prince in 1512. It is of great consequence to disguise your inclination and to play the hypocrite well. And men are so simple in their temper and so submissive to their present necessity that he is neat and cleanly in his collusions shall never want people to practice them upon. Okay. So that, and as I said, that goes back to the 1500s. And many of us are familiar with Machiavelli as, for some of his philosophies and essentially chaos is a ladder type rhetoric. But I find it very interesting that it goes back that far. And it's about, in many, many cases, deception, and sometimes it's not. So we can get into that as well. Back to you, Karen.
Yes, I wanted to mention, even going back to the printing press or just the written word, there were those who were encouraged or allowed, permitted to learn to read, and those who were not, and those who could afford books and those who could not. And that goes back as far as in history, as far as I know of, trying to write the information down. I guess that may be a huge factor in why the spoken word and the for example, the Iliad or the Odyssey or the oral traditions and the troubadours that were so important, because they stored the knowledge and they passed it on that way. And we do see people in the past sitting around telling stories, and a lot more than we do today, and relating their stories and their history, their family history, passing things on, but we also know that the ability to have that knowledge or has been filtered or sequestered away from certain people throughout history. So I think that this is just a continuation of that, or part of that continuum of censorship and hiding of important knowledge, or censorship from things that weren't advantageous to certain parties.
For sure. And of course, the evolution of that with the introduction of new technology. And obviously you were talking about the printing press, and then we're talking about the introduction of television, and then the evolution of how television was provided to people, which was going from, you had 3 channels and whatever those 3 channels were showing you and whatever that schedule looked like, to then having cable and having 24/7 something on television. And then the advent of streaming, in addition to the introduction of cell phones and then smartphones and then all the social media apps and all these things. So it's really continued in that tradition exponentially. And I'm sure they have learned so much from us.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I'm going to pop my screen up. And is it looking good?
Yes, I just see us. So it looks like you just got to grab your...
Go.
Can you see it?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I have to switch my screen when I do that. Okay,
Gotcha.
Here we go. So this is from a channel called Propaganda, which I think is kind of cute. And they're talking a bit about the application of modern propaganda, all this, though this is an older video. So I'm just going to show part of this. Then I'm going to switch to some commercials. And then maybe we can show a little bit more of this later. But I think it really makes some great points. So let me make sure that my audio is turned on, and it is. So hopefully this will work.
Propaganda has become the primary.
I lost the sound, Karen.
Seldom do the powerful deliver messages to the public before consulting their colleagues in the public relations industry.
See if you can turn that up a little bit. You may need to restart it. It's really low.
Secretary of State. Instead, he chose Charlotte Piers.
See if I can turn the volume up. Restart it, Karen. I lost the volume.
Know why I'm losing the volume? When I mute my mic, is that when I'm losing the volume? I wonder if I didn't share the volume. Let me check if I shared.
Okay, yeah. Because it sounded really low, like it was coming from the screen into your mic instead of directly sharing into StreamYard.
This is bizarre. Also share system audio. Oh, that's probably what it was.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay. Shall we try it again?
Yes.
Okay, the volume is up.
And yeah, if you want to start it at the, perfect.
Relations industry. Colin Powell presents a now typical case. He didn't choose a seasoned diplomat for the position of Undersecretary of State. Instead, he chose Charlotte Piers, known in PR circles as the Queen of Madison Avenue. Her resume includes successful advertising campaigns for Head & Shoulders Dander Shampoo, Uncle Ben's Rice, and now Uncle Sam.
You see a news show, you watch 60 Minutes or a Fox program or whatever it is, you tend to give more credibility to what you're told is journalism. If an advertisement comes on, hopefully you tend to be more skeptical of that because obviously somebody put an awful lot of money into crafting this slick TV ad and airing it. But what you probably never suspect is that that news story you just watched was also crafted by a company given to the TV station or network with the understanding that they would put their own logos on it, identify it as real journalism, and air it.
Colonel Sam Gardner would eventually chart 50 false news stories created and leaked by the Bush White House propaganda apparatus prior to and during the assault on Iraq. Foremost amongst these were the lies that led to the war in the first place. It was not bad intelligence that led to the invasion, concludes Gardner. It was an orchestrated effort that began before the war and was meticulously planned to manipulate the public.
In 2002, when the Bush administration was conducting its massive public relations campaign to sell the war, out of Donald Rumsfeld's office in the Pentagon, there was something now referred to as the Pentagon Pundits Program, where literally scores of former high-ranking military generals and colonels were in their directly conferences with the Pentagon, travel with the Pentagon, and then go on TV as supposedly independent sources. Although most of them were actually being paid in the private sector because these retired military officials, contractors, and many of them registered lobbyists, and butters based on being able to sell armaments and bombs and missiles. And you're supposed to be just a patriotic ex-general giving an honest opinion of what's going on. And even though that's illegal, there's no way to really stop it. And the most powerful medium through which it occurred refuses to even report on the scandal. You've got just a massive problem, and that's where we're at.
The invasion of Iraq represents a pinnacle of domestic war in the United States, an unparalleled integration between public relations firms, corporate media, and military psyops. At the time of the assault, large segments of the American public were convinced that a nuclear attack by Saddam Hussein on their nation was not only possible, but imminent. Soldiers who comprised the invading force were similarly confused, with a remarkable 77% believing that Hussein was responsible for the attacks of 9/11. Many earnestly believed that the mission was to destroy a mysterious group known as Al-Qaeda, while bringing freedom to the Iraqi people.
So there's plenty for us to discuss there so far, and I see many parallels with the situation today in Iran. You were talking about on America Unplugged about the nuclear issue, and of course, the nuclear issue is what's being used as an excuse in so many ways to scare people and to get people to somewhat at least go along with all this of the aggression, the war of aggression. And we saw in this clip how a PR person was used to sell the war, not someone who was a war strategist or a historian or somebody with great insight into current public events or world affairs, world history, geopolitical dynamics, but someone who was a PR person for dandruff shampoo, I believe, a Head and Shoulders shampoo. So I find that interesting. And then this goes on to talk about how many dead, how many Iraqis were displaced. You had Madeleine Albright talk about starving hundreds of thousands, 500,000 Iraqi children, and that was the price. It was worth it. We had to make these hard decisions, and that price was worth that. And so there's quite a bit more here, but I thought maybe we could talk and discuss it for a few minutes and take it from there, whatever you feel which direction you think we should move. Do you have comments?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. So this is a perfect example of how, like when we talk about Mockingbird media, or we talk about how we know the concept of a false flag in order to manufacture consent from the public. But things like this, it goes so much deeper than that in so many ways. And like what you're pointing out here, using a PR firm. And this was also, if you remember the very famous story, that's also a very similar theme that has been, recycled over, name that conflict. Part of the playbook that the babies in incubators. Mm-hmm. So this was the daughter of a diplomat who and the situation of her presentation of this information while she was crying, it was arranged to be somewhere outside of a congressional hearing. So this was not going to be on the record, so she could not be sued for perjury or anything like that. So she was presenting the story of the babies in incubators, of what the Kuwaiti soldiers were doing, or the Iraqi soldiers were doing, excuse me. And this was, of course, an emotional plea, an emotional story in order to get the consent of the, manufactured consent of the American public to go into the first Gulf War. And who was she trained by? It was a PR firm as well. So this has been hacked again. And before we move on to the next part of the video, I will just bring another quote, if I may.
Yes, please.
Okay. So this quote is, let me see, where is he at? I'm looking for the dude. The engineering of consent is the very essence of the democratic process, the freedom to persuade and suggest. Edward Bernays, Engineering Consent, 1947.
Excellent. And I have one. We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false, which is attributed to CIA Director William J. Casey. And I believe that would have been in the early 1980s. So I think we both had some powerful quotes there. Okay, we'll continue a little bit more with this.
For your fucking freedom! So back up right now!
Yet what was actually happening was what the Nuremberg Charter describes as the single greatest crime under international law: the planning, preparation, initiation, or waging of a war of aggression. Seven years later, the results of the invasion are clear. According to The Lancet, one of Britain's most respected medical journals, approximately 600,000 Iraqis had been killed from the invasion as of 2006. By 2009, a polling agency put the number at over 1 million. 4 million Iraqis have been made refugees in their own country. Their entire society is shattered. How did the land of the free and the home of the brave arrive at a place where citizens could be manipulated with such efficiency and on such a massive scale?
Herman and Chomsky used the metaphor of filters. There's all this information out there, but only some of it gets through. Now, of course, the use of filters is inevitable. The news has to select and edit information. But that filtering isn't just a question of free journalistic judgment. It's heavily influenced by a series of institutional pressures, such as who owns the media, the role of advertisers, the kinds of sources that are used, and a more direct form of pressure that Herman and Chomsky call flack. Key question in any democracy is what makes it through the filters and what gets filtered out.
Now, if you look at the agenda-setting media, what are they? Well, in the first place, they're huge corporations, parts of even bigger corporations like, Westinghouse and so on. So they are subparts of huge concentrations of private power.
And when we talk about media ownership and control, we're talking about the ownership and control by very wealthy people who have interlocking directorships with many other corporations.
Like other corporations, they sell a product to a market. In their case, the market is advertisers, other businesses. The product is audiences. Well, if you just look at the basic institutional structure of that system, and a rational person will ask, what kind of news and interpretation is going to come out of this? Well, the picture of the world that's going to come out is going to be one that's supportive to the needs and interests of the sellers, the buyers.
Although these rich and powerful owners only make up 1% of the world's population, they have mastered the use of propaganda over 99% of the world's population, turning them into consumer slaves who work harder and harder to buy things they don't need. These consumer slaves are also made to pay taxes to their government, money which is used to develop new weapons for the pernicious invasions and occupations of other countries. In the last 5 years alone, they've given their owners more than $1 trillion for these illegal and immoral wars that can't be won, and are even encouraged to send their own children to fight them.
So I think she summed it up pretty well there. We are asked to pay for these wars that cannot be won, and I don't think really, we have to have the state of perpetual war, using perpetual weapons contracts and perpetual rebuilding contracts of various sorts. And then we're asked to pay for it, and then we're asked to send our children to fight those wars. So I think that sums that up very well. So what do you think, Ashley?
Yeah, I agree with you, Karen. And I think that this is one of the things that we touched on when we were talking backstage, is the prevalence of this manipulation. It is in so many areas. So I think it was Do Not Obey said, how about the consumer? Absolutely. It is about what you buy or being a consumer, but it's also about getting people's attention in the attention economy in the digital space. It's about manufacturing consent and manipulating emotional issues to gain consent for exactly what Karen was showing us here, for wars. And it is also, of course, used in just overall political opinion, to sway your opinion, to manipulate the tides of a situation politically. And it's not always about war, but it's just in so many different aspects. And I think that's why it makes it so difficult in today's day and time. We're trying to discern what is actually the truth, what is actually happening, what is manipulation, what is the, two lies and a truth, or whatever that is. It's really, really difficult. And I do think that the algorithm with this peak technology that they have is a huge part of that. We'll get into that a little bit later, but
I agree.
Yeah, I think this is so important and foundational to the understanding of how wide the manipulation goes, because we also talked commercials, photos, television shows, movies, all of these things. And they're integrated not only with product placement and predictive programming and nudging the Overton window and changing societal norms or breaking taboos, but also part of the just behavioral influence in general of like fashion or, feeding back into the consumerism from that way. So there's just so much going on.
And I was going to skip this, but since we're talking about consumerism, there are some great examples of consumerism. And this says that the Western citizens are compliant slaves, but I don't think it's just the Western countries at this point, although we are probably the most severe cases. It's not just Western countries.
Has this man just broken a world record? Has he just created a medicine that can save thousands of lives? Perhaps he's been chosen to represent his community in some way. No, this man has just purchased a telephone. And these people, what is making them scream and cry with such profound joy? They are on a television program where they are receiving consumer items.
Oprah Winfrey, I think.
This, for some boots.
You get a car.
Yeah, everybody gets a pair of
some
Uggs.
clothes shelves.
Metallic Uggs.
And this hysteria is not because they have found God, but because they are receiving sneakers. The propagandist knows that an individual has a natural desire to be on a winning side and appear to fit in with the crowd. One of the easiest ways to achieve this is to make them chant favorable, yet deliberately vague slogans like, "This changes everything."
This is going to change everything.
Just do it. I'm loving it. Or support our troops.
Support our troops.
The point of slogans like support our troops is that they don't mean anything. That's the whole point of good propaganda. You want to create a slogan that nobody's going to
Make
be against,
America great
and
again.
everybody's going to be for. Nobody knows what it means because it doesn't mean anything. Points out Professor Noam Chomsky. With this in mind, propagandists can provide simple answers to complex problems and ask for approval without question.
Either you're with us, either you love freedom, or you're with the enemy.
You're going to kill grandma.
They can use this method to sell phones, violence, cosmetics, or even false wars, like the unwinnable war on terror and the hypocritical war on drugs announced by this master criminal. On February 15, 2003, millions of people worldwide took to the streets in the world's largest ever day of protest, a protest against the pirate Bush regime and their British and Australian lapdogs who wanted to go to war on manufactured grounds. The majority of the world voted against this war, but were ignored. Is this democracy?
Okay, so I think there are a lot of great points in that, and that we can very, very easily transfer to the current events on the world stage, and it's the playbook, as you said, which we've seen repeated over and over and over again. And I can't see the chat when I share my screen. I just wanted to play a few of these classic commercials. But I can wait if you have something you want to add, Ashley, at that point. But I just wanted to just take a look at how commercials have evolved, the techniques used. What I notice in these is we see some celebrities, faces that are recognizable. We hear songs that are recognizable. We hear jingles. We know music. Repetition, which is a form of hypnosis. Repetition can be highly recognizable. Pop songs, and as you've got sex, of course, being sold, sports, actors, catchphrases. So I'm hoping people will enjoy watching some of this, but also recognize some of the techniques that were used in those days. And then as we're moving away from production in a studio with actual human beings and human voices, recognizable actors, etc., and music songs that were hits by actual people singing them. We're moving more toward the AI at this point. AI illustrations, AI voices, AI music. So all of some of these more human devices that were used, or human attributes appealing to some of our senses and our humanity, they're kind of possibly moving away from that. And also at this point, television and radio and print media were really the only forms. There was no social media at this point. So I think at this point, things have moved more into the algorithms, as Ashley mentioned, like Cambridge Analytica. We all have our own algorithm and our own echo chamber. Back in those days, they were trying to appeal more widely to people of all ages and socioeconomic interests, and because there was just basically television, radio, and movie theaters and print media. So the propaganda delivery has changed. So I just thought it'd be interesting to take a look back at it, and maybe some people will see something they remember fondly. So I'll go ahead and
really. Okay,
Go
really
ahead.
quick, Karen, before you go, and I agree. I think some of this stuff is still fun, even if the point of it was that there is some nostalgia about some of this
Yes.
stuff, like the Tootsie Pops, the owl, these very vintage type commercials. But if I may quickly, I have another quote.
Absolutely.
The day has clearly gone forever of societies small enough for their members to have personal acquaintance with one another and to find their station through the appraisal of those who have any firsthand knowledge of them. Publicity is an evil substitute, and the art of publicity a black art, but it has come to stay. Every year adds to the potency and the finality of its judgments. Justice Leonard Hand, 1952.
That's getting close to being what, 80 years ago almost, or yeah. Wow. Okay, let's have a little fun and just try to be observant too.
Hey, how about a nice Hawaiian punch?
This one's kind of muffled, the rest are better.
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
Let's find out. 1, 2, 3, 3. How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? The world may never know.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country.
Our nice Cody, who's actually Hispanic from Spain.
People start pollution. People can stop it.
I read his biography.
That's some species. Cut spicy meatballs, Jack. Sorry. Take 28. Out, dummy, and action. Mamma mia, that's a spicy meatball. Cut. What was the matter with that? The accent. Cut. Cut. Micey, ballsy, ballsy. Take 59. And action. Jack.
Sometimes you eat more than you should. And when it's spicy besides, Mamma mia, do you need Alka-Seltzer?
Sooner or later, you're going to try a white owl. And when you do, we gotcha.
Bert, what do you say to Martini and Rossi?
Yes. Yes. To Martini and Rossi on the covers. Say yes.
Okay, that's Angie Dickinson. And that is Burt Bacharach, who is an actual songwriter who wrote many, many, many hit songs. So you see an actor and a songwriter there. So I think that's of some significance.
Yeah.
Farrah Fawcett and me, Broadway Joe Namath.
What was that?
Butter.
Parquet margarine.
Butter.
No, parquet. It says right on your lid, parquet margarine.
Butter.
Parquet.
Fake food push.
Smooth, delicious. Butter.
Parquet.
But surely, Starkist don't want tunas with good taste. Starkist wants tunas that taste good.
That's for me.
Sorry, Charlie.
You can't get away with the crunch, because the crunch always gives you away.
Get Quake.
Crisp is better. Fellas, why not leave it to the kids out there? Take sides with either Quake or Quisp.
Or Quake.
Or Quisp. 2 new cereals from Quaker.
What's this stuff? Some cereal. It's supposed to be good for you. Did you try it? I'm not going to try it. You try it. I'm not going to try it. Let's get Mikey. Yeah. He won't eat it. He hates everything. He likes it. Hey, Mikey.
Anticipation.
To all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun.
Say that again.
To all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun.
To all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, onions, pickles, on.
To all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun.
McDonald's Big Mac.
The great big sandwich with a great big taste.
Hold the pickle, hold the lettuce, special orders don't upset us. All we ask is that you let us serve it your way.
9 Lives presents Morris.
The castle's almost finished, Your Majesty.
Good. Reserve the dungeon for yourself.
Mr. Whipple, please don't squeeze the Charmin.
Hey, you two been married 3 months. How come Ned isn't housebroken yet? Oh, I've tried, Rosie.
I have a knack for spilling.
Who hasn't the knack in this place? That's why I switched to Bounty paper towels. They absorb faster than any other brand. Bounty's the quicker picker-upper.
Oh, it's not nice to fool Mother Nature.
New Coast Deodorant Soap. A crisp, exhilarating scent and handfuls of bubbly lather combine to tingle your senses. It makes you feel more than clean. It actually brings you back to life. Refreshing Coast. An eye-opening experience.
Okay, maybe we can stop for now. There are more later, quite a few more about cars and other areas of consumerism. And if you'd like to, we could move into maybe one of your videos. And we're about 42 minutes in. What do you think?
I think that sounds good. I have a couple things, and I was thinking that if we have time, I wanted to play. I pulled up the Under the Silver Lake clip, and I know it's kind of all over the map, but it's also just so related. And
Right.
sometimes when I'm observing what's happening in this world, I'm like, this feels like the clip from Under the Silver Lake, or this feels like the Truman Show, or whatever. So if we get to that, I do have that pulled up, but
Okay.
I wanted to bring up a video just to start about, is this where I wanted to go? With algorithmic nudging. So the concept of nudging, and that was a book that was co-written by Cass Sunstein as well. But this is a big, like, if you look up the TED Talk stuff, they love talking about nudging, which obviously is a social effort to nudge people's behavior in one way or another. And then you have all of these questions associated with that, as far as how ethical is that. And it may be something that occurs organically anyway for like a business that is selling something. They may have these things in place, but I think so I don't fault an individual, like small local owned business. It's whenever we get into the algorithmic hacking, or whenever we're using this type of thing to nudge people for manufacturing consent for another war, or whatever that may be, or like consent for a political party that, of course, I have a problem with. So I have that pulled up, ready to share if we can go into this. But in this case, this is actually more in regards to sales, but I wanted to show it still because I think that the overall theme, we can apply it to a lot of different things.
Okay. I also watched a video that talked about the use of the crime TV shows, like the real, like Crime Stoppers, and the one with John Walsh, America's Most Wanted, and
Yep,
how
and
those were
Cops.
made to look like horror movies, with a lot of stop action on the crime scene, how it was always the girl next door getting murdered by an absolute psychopath, and the way that has manufactured fear so that we're afraid to open the door. Some people are afraid to go outside even at this point, and how all of those true crime shows, quote unquote, have been used almost as dramas, similar to a TV show, to make people live in fear of one another. And I think that very much is the case. So there's a lot of great videos and information. People have thought about a lot about these topics. So
Yeah.
I just realized that I was just touching the surface today, just with the
Totally.
few videos I had the time to watch.
Totally scratching the
So-
surface. But yes, and that's what, one of the names for that was propaganda. Even the
Yes.
dramas that were based on that, if you look at the disproportionate amount of cop shows that are out there. Now, I am not judging. I am not preaching. I'm as guilty as the next person of enjoying a good murder mystery and cop
Yes.
show, Broadchurch, like the British, like whatever. But I'm just saying, that I try to cultivate awareness about this stuff. And what did these shows such as Cops or Law and Order, CSI, these things are out there. And even to the point of having people that are dealing with jury settings believe that the jury's expectation is completely skewed as far as what could reasonably be presented to them, because they have this idea that you go in and you check DNA, and then it also solidifies the ideas that these tests that are run are rock solid, which of course is not necessarily true. Like some of these are considered, I don't know that I want to say junk science, but they're iffy, such as like blood spatter experts. Sorry for you Dexter fans out there. Polygraph is absolutely a huge one. It's not even admissible in court, but it is used to manipulate the person that is taking it. And I think sometimes it can be a good indicator. And I try to think to myself in regards to this crime situation, if I was on the other end of the crime, or if that happened to my family member, what would I want? But just trying to look at it from an objective perspective, these tools are employed, and yet they're not foolproof. But shows like CSI have helped to reaffirm the belief that actually they're unshakable. So, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, I know people, I can't remember the name of the channel. I think there's a channel that plays just big. There's a certain voice, and they just play those true life horror stories over and over all day long. And I know people who have watched those and turn out to be very unhappy, frightened, anxious people. And one reason is they've got that doom and gloom blaring on their TV about these horror stories of people breaking in and murdering people, torturing people. So I think it's really important that we don't get sucked into that and monitor ourselves to the point where we realize that if this is making us feel terrible, we need to turn off. But definitely there was a huge wave of the CSI true life crime scene. And now there are crime podcasts that people listen to, which I find them interesting too, but not all the time. Okay, go right ahead.
Well, I'm a fan of a good true crime podcast myself. Guilty of all the above offenses for sure. And I actually found one that someone shared with me. This was just an anecdotal side tangent. My apologies, but you're going to hear it. It's called Southern Fried True Crime. And this woman goes into specifically crimes that have taken place in the South. So some of them are old, some of them are very recent, but honestly, I was very impressed with her research that she did she had a research assistant also, but trying to cover and deal with the nuances of the case. And I thought it's pretty good. Well, anyway, at one point I was just tuning into that, like when I was doing stuff around the house, and I'm just really going through the true crime podcasts. And I do that with my ADHD. I get on a kick and I just go down that rabbit hole. So it's really good. It's really interesting. And if anyone wants some case recommendations, I'll tell you about some crazy cases. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share a little bit of this, Karen, and then if we feel like it's getting too long, I'll pull it, but let's just see what we think. And let me make sure. Okay, let's see. I think that's ready to go. Let me know if you can hear it.
Safe. So let's pull back the curtain and see what's really happening on our screens. You know that feeling, right? Maybe you felt a sudden rush to buy something before a timer disappeared. Or you found yourself watching just one more video, and then another. If you've ever felt like an app was pushing you to do something, you are definitely not alone. And there's actually a name for what's going on.
So let's put a name to that feeling. It's called algorithmic nudging. You can think of it like an invisible hand inside your apps, subtly guiding you in a certain direction while you scroll and tap. Here's the key thing to understand. The apps we use today aren't just static pages. They're smart. They use your data and artificial intelligence to watch what you do, and then they change the interface, the buttons you see, the messages that pop up, all to encourage you to take a specific action. Now, not all nudges are bad. What really separates a helpful one from a manipulative one is the reason behind it.
A simple reminder to save your work, that's helpful. But a nudge that creates a fake sense of urgency just to get you to buy something, well, that's when we cross the line into manipulation. Maybe the easiest way to picture this is to imagine a digital salesperson, one who's watching your every move, learning from your reactions, and constantly tweaking its sales pitch to be as persuasive as possible in that very moment. So how does this whole system actually work? How does it know what to do? It usually follows a surprisingly straightforward 4-step process, all running automatically deep in the background. First, the system tracks everything you do, every single tap, scroll, and even how long you pause on a picture. Next, the app's interface actually changes based on that behavior. You hesitate on a product, maybe a discount banner pops up. Then, it uses well-known psychological triggers to influence you. And finally, the system is always learning, constantly testing different versions of buttons and text to see what gets the most people to click. Let's look a little closer at those psychological triggers. They're so effective because they tap into our basic human instincts. A message like "only 2 left in stock" triggers our fear of missing out. Seeing 5,000 people bought this today uses our natural urge to follow the crowd. And "your cart will expire" plays on our powerful dislike of losing something we feel we already have. And you can see these techniques pretty much everywhere. Autoplay on streaming apps nudges you to just keep watching. Those countdown timers on shopping sites push you to buy now. Social media feeds are constantly being reshuffled to show you something that will keep you scrolling. Even surge pricing in a ride-sharing app creates this urgent need to book before the price goes up any higher. Okay, so we know how it works, but it's also really important to understand the potential risks here. And again, this isn't about creating fear. It's simply about being aware of the impact this technology can have on us. The biggest risk is behavioral manipulation. These systems are often designed to make a company more money, which isn't always what's best for you. This creates a kind of loop. The more you interact, the more data they get, and the better they become at nudging you. Over time, this can lead to addictive design. But maybe the most important risk is that it's all hidden. You often don't even know your experience is being personalized to guide your choices. The good news is, just being aware of this is the first and most important step to taking back control. So, let's walk through some simple, practical things you can do to use technology a little more mindfully. And honestly, this is the single most powerful thing you can do. Whenever you feel that digital pressure, that sense of urgency, just pause. Take a breath. That one moment is often all it takes to break the spell and give yourself a chance to think clearly before you click. Don't let the app rush you. So let's build on that idea of pausing. First, just be aware. Start recognizing these urgency timers and scarcity messages for what they are. Second, when you see one, pause and ask yourself, is this urgency real or is the app creating it? Third, dig into your settings. Many apps let you turn off personalized recommendations. And finally, whenever you have the choice, try to use services that are built for a clear purpose, not just to keep you hooked for as long as possible.
Okay. I'm not, it's like some tips at the end, so I won't play through the whole thing, but I did think that was an important point, that the one thing that we can definitely do is start to cultivate awareness and mindfulness, especially if engaging in social media and recognizing in that moment that it's designed to capture the attention, it is designed to sell us things, and it is designed to manipulate our behavior and prey upon the information, or prey upon us based on the information that it's able to gather that we may not even be aware of. So I think that everyone here probably is aware of the fact that they will measure how long you appear to be looking at an image, right? Even if you don't like it, or you don't click on it, or you don't engage, but you slow your scroll rate. So things like that are being factored into the way that this stuff is presented to us. And then as far as I know, that's dealing from the sales and consumer side of things. But if I may, I have one little short that I want to show. Now, this is a disclaimer. I'm not a fan of Joe Rogan anymore. I did watch back in the day. Don't care for him at all now. But this was a really interesting little clip that is talking about how, because I was trying to find information that showed that the algorithm deliberately causes division amongst people. I think it likes, the predator class in my personal opinion, they use the algorithm in order to get people into their silos and in order to gradually start changing their perception of a subject. And one of the biggies is, for me, was when, let's say, like during the pandemic times, people were posting about that was like the back and forth that people were having. You really saw very little criticism of Israel, or very little like noticing, as they call it. And then as the pandemic sort of was sunsetting, then we saw the rise of the noticing. And then some of the rhetoric is very extreme. Some of it is just valid critiques of the nation state of Israel and valid critiques of the war criminal Bibi Netanyahu. There's an entire scale, but I think that's just an example. And everybody wasn't buying into that at first. But then as time passed, from an observational standpoint, you could see more and more and more people in your circles kind of starting to sympathize, agree with, share, and utter this type of rhetoric. I'm not saying everybody's wrong, but I'm saying that why did that happen? That seemed completely artificial to me. And of course, as you know, that I am a huge proponent for not supporting the nation state of Israel. And obviously, I'm against the genocide that they're doing in Gaza and the genocide that they're doing in Lebanon, and how they're getting away with it, and based on a huge amount of weapons and information and money from the United States. But so I'm not saying that some of this line of thinking is not valid, but I'm just saying, why was it put there? I don't have the answer to that, but it's just something I was watching and I felt like it was being astroturfed, basically. So I want to get your thoughts, Karen. I'm going to show this really quick, and then I want to hear what you have to think.
10-4.
I saw that video showing the comments in TikTok are different.
Exactly. I think it's Instagram. Was doing it with her boyfriend, and they were both looking at the same thing, but they had different comments. Yeah. Comments were mocking the man, and the comments on his side was mocking the woman.
Yes. Whenever I'm looking at comments, I make the idiot mistake of thinking this represents some consensus that, but actually, no, you're just looking at the algorithm serving the comments and the content. That is so up.
The comments are supposed to be a conversation about the thing. So if you're curating the conversation in an unnatural way, like that's very different than showing me what I want to see.
Yes.
Because now you're changing the dynamics of how things are discussed.
Yes, sir. That's the evil right there. That's the evil.
That's crazy.
The other assumption with the algorithm, I saw that video showing the comments in TikTok are different.
Okay. So I found that to be interesting, and maybe if people are interested in trying that with somebody side by side, looking at the same thing and seeing what your particular echo chamber may be reinforcing for you.
I think that would be a really fascinating thing to do. Really fascinating. I'm surprised people don't do that more.
Yeah. So what do you think? Because I have thought about that I actually need to try that. But I have felt like that because there have been times when I saw somebody posting something and I go to the comments and I'm looking for them to get ratioed and people to, rip them a new one, and they are. And I'm like, yes. And then I was like, what are the odds that this is just being shown to me because this is my freedom of speech, not freedom of reach. And this is my tunnel, my little rat hole that I'm allowed to be in.
Yes. And and I wanted to say about the nudging. I didn't realize it was called nudging, but I noticed it all the time. I just kind of considered it marketing, but it's like Spirit of the Age Paul said, a blue light special, in Kmart on aisle 9, men's tube socks are on special for 10 minutes. It's like, it's that going, gone mentality And they're even more able to do that online. I don't use Temu, but I've noticed if you do click on Temu, immediately you start getting nudged. There's this wheel that spins, and they want you to click and see what discount you have, but you have to keep clicking and clicking, several times to get the discount. And then they want you to, I don't know, invite a bunch of friends and get all their information and put your email before you can even see the item that you were wanting to look at in the first place. So I don't have an account with Temu or Shine or any of that stuff, because I don't like all that data harvesting and mining. And to me, it's obviously that's what's going on there. And the attention economy, it's an attention economy. So they want our attention. They need to keep our attention as long as possible. And all of these, it's a flash sale, it's only going to last another hour. And like you said, 6,000 people bought this in the last 24 hours, or only 2 left. And, and of course, I don't think we can really believe any of that. Yeah, Temu is a scam. Yeah, that's why I don't engage with Temu. And I've never had TikTok either. I've watched a few TikTok videos, but I've never had the app. But yeah, the nudging is real, and it can be very extreme. I think another form of the nudging is everybody having to, in order to get points off at the store, even your grocery store, to get the sales, you have to have a card with them, or you have to have their app. If you want a sale price anywhere, sometimes at Christmas, you have to download the app on your phone. And then I usually just take it right out as soon as I walk out of the store. If it's something I really want for Christmas for several people and a great sale, I will download the app for a minute, and then that thing is out of my phone. But it's too bad that that's where where we're being nudged, just an app for everything. And it's getting harder and harder to function without all of these apps and things, or you pay more, I guess you would say. You do end up paying more. So that was an interesting video. I really appreciated it. And it was a good chance to think about those things and how they're so pervasive in our lives.
Yeah. And I think that it ties into what you were saying, is that this is like so much that you're interacting with, that all of us are to an extent, and not everybody. I know that some people do better than others, but I know I'm engaging with that stuff. I know for sure that I have fell victim to like, oh, I get an extra discount if I buy it now.
Yes.
Oh my God. And then I don't even use it. So
yeah,
I certainly have been a giant sucker sometimes when it comes to this stuff. And
buy one, even just the old buy one get one half off.
Yeah,
or buy one and get a coupon for your friend. If you refer a friend, get $50 back if you can send this to a friend or share it on social media. I am not going to share it on social media, and I'm not sending it to my friend. That's the last thing I want, is somebody sending me that saying, can you sign up for this so I can get my extra 5%? It's like, why do you want me to why are you selling me out like that, is what I'm thinking. Why do you want me to give them? Why would you do that to me? But they don't think about it the way I think about it. But yeah, but I think we all do that sometimes. We've all fallen victim to that few times, or we've just not been mindful of it.
Yes, and there are different manipulations, like what you're saying, of buying like this brand at this price for this many ounces, and then another brand. Like, you're trying to figure all that stuff out. But honestly, if you're trying to do that with every single thing that you're purchasing at all times, it gets difficult while trying to balance the rest of your life. So it can be hard to constantly keep your guard up. So I think for me, I'm just going to tell myself, like, just do what you can do. Just try to be aware of this stuff. And I definitely am in regards to algorithmic manipulation. That was one thing that I feel like I have made a little bit of progress, because I'm not really angry. I definitely was during COVID times, but I just thought about, when I'm seeing this stuff that is being shown to me, it's being shown to me for a reason. And I'm not going to start hating my friends, family, and neighbors for no reason, based on something that I saw online that I don't observe in my real life. Do these things happen sometimes? Yes, I'm sure that they do. But for the most part, when I go outside in my neighborhood, I'm not seeing a group of people brawling over like a television or whatever that happens to be. So I just try to keep that in mind, and I'm trying to stop falling for the division narrative as far as like, oh, you know, you're a Zionist, I hate you, or whatever. I have friends that are Zionists, but I also have an understanding that this is a complex issue, that if I believe that people have been propagandized to to manufacture consent for a war, then why wouldn't I think that people have been propagandized in certain specific ways that are well documented to get them to be an ally to Israel? We know that they went after the fundamentalist Christian conservative base specifically. We know that they manipulated the information and that they have been targeting them for decades. We know that. So I'm not going to be upset with people that are my friends. I wish that they would see the light. I wish that they would realize what is happening. I do think it's hypocritical for you to say in the United States that I'm a Christian and I have conservative values and I don't believe in abortion. You know, I'm pro-life. And then you sit there and say like, oh, I love Benjamin Netanyahu, and knowing what they're doing to children in Gaza and Lebanon. I think that's insane. But I'm sure that I probably have some insane beliefs or hypocritical things that I do that I'm not even aware of yet either. So I just hope that those people will come around, but I'm done just not liking people based on one opinion.
Well, there's an old Joe South song, walk a mile in my shoes, walk a mile in my shoes. So, you know, this is before you criticize and abuse, walk a mile in my shoes. I think that, you know, in any group, there are people who are more positive or have more positive personality characteristics, or are more open and loving and good-hearted, and you know, and then there are others that aren't, and that's in any group. And I think that it's really dangerous to generalize. I don't think it's a mature way to look at things to generalize. Oh, she's a blonde-haired white woman, you know, or he's a teacher from the suburbs. Well, you know, his parents, I'm just talking about my dad. His parents rode the rails to the California to pick fruit. And his parent, you know, then my mom's parents were raised by sharecroppers in Arkansas, you know, so they were basically indentured servants, or, you know, so I think it's really dangerous to generalize about people. There's good and bad in all groups. And we have reasons, you know, we grow up to a large degree believing what our parents and our culture teaches us. That's how we become the people that we are. And we're highly programmable beings when we're under the apparently there's a saying, give me a child until the age of 7 and I will give you the man. Or there's a biblical passage that says, you know, raise up a child in the way he should go, and when he's older he will return to those ways, you know. So we're highly programmable, and that's part of the reason we have all this social engineering and propaganda and nudging, the algorithms and all of these strategies, because we are so programmable. So of course we're going to grow up and have the views of the people that raise us, because that's how we survive. For one thing is learning how to fit in, learning the skills, the survival skills, and how to interact with one another. And we do have that very, very strong need to fit in with the group. So life's a journey, and I know my views change all the time. You know, I really work to keep my views changing, and there are a lot of things that I just don't know about, and I'm willing to say I don't know.
There's so much. You know? It's really hard to try to figure out with what we talk about quite often in this information warfare age. It's really difficult. So we can just keep doing like what you said, just try to keep learning and try to keep an open mind about what we think we know, understand that there's probably a lot more that we don't know.
Absolutely.
And take it from there.
Absolutely. There's so much I know that I don't know, you know, and I probably never will, but I'm curious about it all. I'd love to know, but I realize that I won't, but it's still interesting. trying to figure these things out, so do you have more videos?
Yeah, I do have a couple more things. So, I have this this is actually Cass Sunstein, and I have it at about the halfway mark. So I'm just going to play. This is about 4 minutes or so, and we will hear from him. Now, I believe, if I recall correctly, that this is referring to nudging again, even though Ronnie said nudging is old news. Sorry, Ronnie. He said it's psychic now, which I don't disagree with, but here we go.
It turns out if people are asked whether they want to opt in, the likelihood that they're in is really low, less than 7%. If people are automatically in and asked whether they want to opt out, the percentage is really high, almost 70%. Notice, if you would, that this nudge is an extremely inexpensive environmental program that fully preserves freedom of choice, and it makes the air much cleaner. All over the world, we are seeing nudge units that are using tools of this sort, freedom-preserving tools, to try to make people's lives better. The World Bank in 2015 basically said, if you're worried about infectious diseases, about poverty, about development, about environmental and other harms, think about nudges as an intervention that might be very inexpensive and extremely effective. Okay, what we know from the last years of social science, forgive the word, social science, what we know from the last years of social science is that people don't always, and this is kind of intuitive, calculate probabilities and figure out what to do. They don't do that. What they often do is fall prey, we, to predictable biases and mental shortcuts. Human beings are standardly optimistic. 94% of professors, and it hurts me to say this, believe that they're better than the average professor. But it can create big problems if we don't take precautions. People also suffer from present bias. That's a way of saying today really matters, tomorrow a lot, next year not so much, and next decade not at all. And it suggests that if we're talking about our health or our financial situation, we will often get into trouble because the future is a foreign country called Laterland, and we're not sure we're ever going to visit. A few years ago in New York and other parts of the country, people were really scared that they were going to get Ebola, even though more Americans had married Kardashians than had died of Ebola. And people weren't saying, oh my God, I might marry a Kardashian. Here are 3 policies in the United States that have had massive effects. Automatic enrollment is increasing retirement savings by significant amounts for people who are going to be comfortable when they're unhealthy or old. It's working. Simplification of the form for financial aid has the same impact in getting kids to go to college as a several $1,000 increase in the subsidy. Simplification better than increasing the subsidy. Yes, taxpayers don't have to foot the bill. A little form telling people how much electricity they're using compared to their peers, that's a nudge. Do not wait till strike to strike until the iron is hot, but make it hot by striking. Now there's a nudge.
I'm having some kind of allergy attack. You turned your video off, right?
Yes, it finished. And I was going to tell you, Karen, if you need to step away, if you drink a little baking soda in some water, that will help reduce the histamine response in a short order.
Okay. I was going to say something. I can't remember what it was, though. Yeah, I think I'll go do that because my eyes are watering. So
okay, while you do that, then what I may do is show the Under the Silver Lake clip, if you're good with that, Karen. Okay, she will return, and in the meantime, enjoy this, and I think we'll get away with this because this is Rumble and not YouTube. So see if I can go. And I think most of you probably have seen this, but if not, it is super fascinating. And if so, it's always worth a rewatch. So here we go.
You wrote the song Turning Teeth for Jesus and the Brides of Dracula, and the codes and the music. I found the tunnels and the bomb shelter.
Okay.
So what does it all mean?
You come and sit down. Here.
Is that Kurt Cobain's Fender Mustang guitar?
Oh, I don't know. Probably. I don't remember. I have so many things.
Can I pick it up?
I don't always worry what the message is. I just pass it along. I slip it between the notes, hide it away from people that know it's there.
You're saying you've done this before? Codes?
I wrote the music your dad grew up to. Half of what you sang along to as a kid, and I'm still doing it. And these teenagers are dancing to my music. I want it that way. Tell me why.
You're telling me there's hidden messages in old pop songs?
Movies, television shows, everything you know.
Why?
That's pop culture, isn't it? Floats away like tissue paper. Yeah, I blow my nose. I find a used Kleenex, I recycle it, and there is your wedding song. Here it comes. I want to know what love is. And I want you to show me.
What are the tunnels for? Is there going to be a war?
Oh, hell, I don't know. I'm just trying to make a living, earn a few dollars.
Well, you have everything.
No.
You know this girl?
Well, isn't she pretty? Earth angel, earth angel.
She was killed.
Oh, won't you be mine? Well,
along with Jefferson Sevens, but I think you already knew that. Yeah.
No, I did not. I don't care what's fashionable or cool. It's all silly and it's all meaningless. I created so many of the things that you care about. The songs that give your life purpose and joy. When you were 15 and rebelling, you were rebelling to my music. Uh-oh. That's one you know. That song was not written on distorted guitar. No. I wrote it here on piano somewhere between a blowjob and an omelet. There is no rebellion. There's only me earning a paycheck.
I don't believe you.
Well, good. Because the real message was not meant for you. So it's better if you just smile and you dance and you enjoy the melody. Because this ugly old man, me, I am the voice of your generation. Your grandparents, your parents, and all the young people that follow you. I love rock and roll. Drop another dime in the jukebox, baby. Oh, look at you. Everything that you hoped for, that you dreamed about being a part of, is a fabrication. Your art, your writing, your culture. is the shell of other men's ambitions, ambitions beyond what you will ever understand.
That's funny to you.
Well, it's a little bit funny, don't you think? Because I wrote this, and I wrote this, and I wrote this.
Stop.
And I wrote this too.
Stop it. Who's paying you to write these songs? Who's paying you to write these songs? Oh, shit.
Okay, so that was it's a weird movie. Linda in the chat was asking what movie, so that is Under the Silver Lake, and I think it's a weird movie. I didn't love it, but that particular scene, I don't know. It really stands out to me, and it is something that I think about quite often. And I was saying this to Karen yesterday, like, what is truly the level of manufacturing reality? Is it something like that? I don't know. We don't have proof for it, but I do wonder sometimes. What do you think, Karen? You feeling better?
Yeah, I'm just still a little weepy, but it's not too bad. I took a little walk and did what you said and blew my nose and things. So I'm going to throw out a conspiracy theory. Yes, it's just high octane conspiracy theory, but it's the same storyline basically. So if you're interested in this, and I've known about this for a long time, and I'm not saying I believe it, just throwing it out there. There's a guy named Donald Marshall. He says he's been held captive. I think he's supposed to be a clone. And so at night when he's asleep, he has to go to the underground cloning center place arena, and he writes songs. And he says he's written all the songs for Michael Jackson and Madonna. And I don't know who else he's written, but all the pop songs. It's the same story, Ashley. It's the same thing, except this guy is a guy. I mean, you can see his YouTube videos, and he says that he's been held captive in another dimension, kind of in his sleep, and he goes to this clone center and writes all these, and he's written all the songs. So it's the same thing. It's just, and I don't know what came first, the movie or Donald Marshall, And I have no idea. I haven't watched Donald Marshall in a long time, but I know the story, and a couple other people in the chat know the story. So it's an interesting story, and that's not the first time I've heard it. I have not seen that movie because I know it's weird and creepy. I've heard people say that.
It definitely is. And I will say, in just to add something to what you're talking about from the Donald Marshall story, there's a story, a movie. I don't remember the name of the actual movie. If somebody recognizes it, I don't know, Ronnie will probably know it, but this is a Emma Roberts film where she is an actress, and she is, like bad behavior, right? So she's going to rehab, like we so often hear about for celebrities, particularly during the celebrity baddie heyday, which was Lindsay Lohan, Paris Hilton, and Britney
Spears.
Yeah. So it very much is reminiscent of that. But basically, she had something going on. She had to go to rehab. And then what happens is that, minor spoilers, everyone, but she is at this place, and it's very bizarre, and they behave very bizarre towards them. And there's other celebrities there who have been in similar trouble. But what they don't know is that all the while, everything that they do is being recorded. And there are other people who look similar to them who are watching what they're doing. And then they have plastic surgery to look like that person. And then once that person, the imposter, trains and has their mannerisms and speaking down, then they kill the original. Now,
they're saying girl interrupted.
No.
Ronnie said that.
No, that was an old. I'll find it while you're talking here in just a second. This is Emma Roberts. It might be Paradise Hills or something. I'll look it up. But the point is, in regards to, of course, it's just a movie, but I always wonder, why is this a movie? Why are they showing us this? And then,
Digital twin, anyone?
Yeah, and that was brought up in the chat. And the other thing that I think about too is like when we see people like Britney these days, and she doesn't look like herself. She does now. Granted, when we first were introduced to her, this was very late 90s, and now she's in her headed into her mid 40s or right at mid 40s. So obviously she would look different. But even from some of the other stuff, she doesn't really look like herself. And I wonder about that stuff. And we hear this crazy stuff about her conservatorship. And in her own words, she said that they were taking vials and vials of her blood every week. And of course, like maybe that is the ramblings of a very unwell person. But it just makes you wonder, what's going on here? What's really going on?
Yeah, I agree. And and we will never know, I don't think. I don't think we will. Just like with the things that accusations on with various people and all the speculation around Michael Jackson, and you've got still news coming out about that, and cases being filed, and trying to cash in again on the same people that cashed in previously are trying to cash in again. It just really makes you wonder. Maybe they could leave well enough alone. Why do they keep coming back for more money? I don't know. It's all just a big show, isn't it?
I mean, it certainly seems that way at times, and especially when I know some of this is getting like in the out there speculation, and of course we're merely speculating or pondering or discussing, but knowing the level of control or the level of manipulation that some of these entities, people, and organizations have achieved, and knowing that, yes, movies, streaming, television, all of these things are part of that factor or factored in, then I have to wonder about an individual movie and whether or not that is being put there for a reason. But then the other thing is that I think sometimes I can make it too simple. So for example, there's some conversation out there as far as like the relationship between Jennifer Lawrence and Harvey Weinstein, or Gwyneth Paltrow and Harvey Weinstein, right? So that these women who are willing to have a close relationship with Harvey Weinstein, then they were placed into these star roles. And then as soon as maybe, not that they necessarily fell out of favor, but maybe when he fell out of favor, then we saw their careers sort of take a downward turn. And the specific example was Jennifer Lawrence in this case. So there's certainly more factors at play as far as like who gets these roles and distribution and the store and all this stuff. And so I think that I'm kind of simplifying it as far as like, why is this out here? Why are we being presented with this? Because it's probably there's probably a lot of different factors that are going into it. And the movie, by the way, is Paradise Hills.
Oh, Paradise Hills. Okay. Where do we want to go from here? I've got more commercials I could show. I've got a couple more videos if we wanted to get serious again.
Yeah. Well, maybe do this. Maybe show some more commercials, and I can throw in a quote, and then you can show another video.
Okay. All right. I have to share my screen again. And it's going to look like us to start with. And then we'll go back over here. And I'll just play some more of these commercials. Is that okay for now?
Wow, do I feel good today? How are you getting to work today? Backstroke,
Bring yourself back to life. New Coast Deodorant Soap, the eye-opener.
New from K-Tel Records, 22 explosive hits, 22 original stars, Gallery.
Oh, it's so nice to be with you.
The great Sammy Davis Jr.
Oh, the Candyman can.
Liver Snaps treats are made with real liver, and dogs love them. Treat your dog to Liver Snaps.
I know my own needs. And what I need from an automobile, I know I get from this new Cordova. I could ask for nothing beyond the quality of Cordova's workmanship, the tastefulness of its appearance. I request nothing beyond the thickly cushioned luxury of seats available even in soft Corinthian leather.
Granada, Mercedes, Granada, Mercedes. The new Ford Granada ESS. See how close you can come to the look of a $20,000 Mercedes at the price of a Granada.
Fight right. They're slugging it out in the middle of the ring. A right to the jaw.
My block is knocked off.
I've got a new SSP. Survive!
Okay, let them go. Some of the great SSP racers for 72. When you pull that T-stick, those SSP racers howl with power. Take that action. Crush them. Smash them.
Crash, bang, crack 'em up, put 'em back again. Crash, bang, smash 'em up, it's smash up time, my friend.
G.I. Joe has hands that grip. Fingers you hold open and let close. Hands that hold on with a kung fu grip.
Is it penny, Mickey? Thanks for the gumball. Penny for the gumball, Freddy. Thanks for the gumball. Penny for the gumball, Popeye. Thanks for the gumball.
It's still the survival game.
Let's play.
Last one with the marble on the board wins. Your turn. Move a lever.
I'm gonna block that strategy. I'm out. Me too. Uh-oh.
I win. I'm the sole survivor.
My baloney has a first name, it's O-S-C-A-R. My baloney has a second name, it's M-A-Y-E-R. Oh, I love to eat it every day. If you ask me what I'll say, 'cause Oscar Mayer has a way with B-O-L-O-G and A. Oh, I'd love to be an Oscar Mayer wiener. That is what I truly like to be. 'Cause if I were an Oscar Mayer wiener, everyone would be in love with me.
Well, we're all out of orange-flavored Tang.
Golly, the grape flavor's gone too.
Listen, why don't I go to the earth and get some more?
Yeah?
I could trade them some rocks.
Rocks? For an instant breakfast drink with more vitamin C than orange juice?
Sure. I'll be right back.
What is vitamin C anyway?
Well, I'm back.
You got both orange and grape flavored Tang.
For a bag of rocks.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I wonder if there's intelligent life on that planet.
Hey, Golden!
Yeah. I can bring home the bacon, fry it up in a pan, and never let you forget you're a man.
There's a fragrance that's here today, and they call it Charlie. A different fragrance that thinks your way, and they call it Charlie. Kinda young, kinda now, Charlie. Kinda free, kinda wild, Charlie.
Then the filling for the deep dark color you want and the smooth silky skin to go with it.
I'm Rula Lenska. As an actress, I always have to look my best, so I'm glad that I found a truly great hairspray from America. It's called Alberto VO5.
Wow, what's that aftershave you're wearing?
Your high karate aftershave is so powerful, it drives women right out of their minds. That's why we have to put instructions on self-defense in every package. High karate, the brisk splash-on aftershave that smooths and soothes and cools.
Ron Mize, Wethead. Ron Mize, the dry look. Jeff Edmond, Wethead. Jeff Edmond, the dry look. Have you tried the dry look? The aerosol hair control from Gillette. It's turned a lot of heads.
How do you get shirts so clean, Mr. Lee?
Ancient Chinese secret.
My husband, some hotshot. Here's his ancient Chinese secret, Calgon.
I can't believe I ate that whole thing.
You ate it, Ralph.
I can't believe I ate that whole thing.
No, Ralph, I ate it.
I can't believe I ate that whole thing.
Take 2 Alka-Seltzer.
In the valley of the jolly, green giant.
When it says Libby's, Libby's, Libby's on the label, nothing's better on your table.
Hi, gang. Big Fig here with that great new dance, the Newton. Hit it, Hal. Gooey, gooey, rich and chewy inside. Golden, flaky, tender, cakey outside. Wrap the inside and the outside. Is it good? Darn tootin' doing the big Newton is the tricky part. The big Newton. One more time. The big Newton.
Brush your breath, brush your breath, brush your breath with Dentine. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Almond Joy's got nuts, Mounds don't. Almond Joy's got real milk chocolate, coconut and munchy nuts too. Mounds got deep dark chocolate and chewy coconut. Ooh. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Peter Paul, Almond Joy's got nuts, Peter Paul, Mounds don't. Because sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't.
Thank you.
All the world is smiling with me. Coca-Cola has life. Have a glass and thanks, Mean Joe. Smile.
I drink Dr. Pepper and I'm proud. I'm part of an original crowd. And if you look around these days, there seems to be a Dr. Pepper craze. I'm a pepper, he's a pepper, she's a pepper, we're a pepper. Wouldn't you like to be a pepper too? I'm a pepper, he's a pepper, she's a pepper. If you drink Dr. Pepper, you're a pepper too. Be a pepper, drink Dr. Pepper. Be a pepper.
Okay, that's probably enough. They have the Coke commercials and the Pepsi commercials, and so they kind of go in little categories here, but I can see the push toward packaged food, not whole foods, convenience. But you don't see, I don't think you see the nudging in such an overt way. There's no, it's on sale now, hurry up, you got to buy it now, or the sharing so much of your personal information. It's more driving you to go to the store and buy something, to make choices. But I do see the social engineering and the building the need to be with the in crowd, to have the game that other kids have, to have the perfume that's going to drive the men wild, or the dry look for your hair, or seeing the need for the consumer products being manufactured there. But I don't see the modern nudging that we see with the algorithms. What do you think, Ashley? What do you notice about those things?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I noticed as far as that goes was the catchiness of it. So the ability to have these jingles, like super emphasis on jingles. So this must have been peak feeling like, if we can get this jingle memorized with this catchy little song, that it will be absolutely huge for brand recognition or driving consumption of this particular product, and helping people to remember it, ask for it, look for it on end caps, or look for it while they're checking out at the grocery store. And so it seems to be that the big thing was the jingle, and this fun, like a very fun time was what was associated with them as well. So I feel like whatever they were researching at that time was like, it's got to be a jingle. Must have a jingle. That's the main thing right now. It needs to be an earworm.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to do a couple. There's a few more of the Pepsi and Coke ones. And you still hear the I'm a pepper or be a pepper. Some of these sayings, I still see those in the ads popping up at times.
The Uncooler has a fresh, clean, natural fragrance. Marvelous. The smell of success is never too sweet.
Tap, tap, cola, what a beautiful drink. Tap, tap, cola,
corn and sugar-free tap. I like to teach the world to sing. Sing with me. Birthday mama, birthday mama, I like to fly the world. When you say but, you've said a lot of things nobody else can say. When you say but, you've gone as far as you can go to get the very best. When you say but, you've said the word that means you like to do it all. When you say but, it means you want the beer that's got a taste that's number one. When you say but, you tell the world you know what makes it all the way. When you say but, you say you care enough to only want the king of beer. There is no other one, there's only something less, because the king of beers is leading all the rest. When you say Budweiser, you've said it all. When you say Budweiser, you've said it all.
We have assembled here a most congenial group, brought together by their love for a truly great beer. Right, group? Right. It's light beer from Miller. Right, group? Right. They think the best thing about it is it's less filling. It has a third less calories than their regular beer. Right, group? Right. Wrong.
The best thing about it, it tastes great.
No, honey, it's less filling.
That's all.
Says me.
Hey, take it from me. It tastes great.
Who are you?
You won't think this fight is no joke when you come through and your nose is broke. No wonder you don't get no respect. I tell you, I don't deserve no respect. You still don't know nothing about beer.
I thought I threw you out of this bar last year. I feel very strongly both ways. I never argue.
Hi, Mickey.
Hi, doll.
What's a nice guy like you doing in a fight like this?
Waiting for you, doll.
I still don't know why they wanted me to do this commercial.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer and less.
Okay, and I do not recognize that last man. I've been wondering who that last person was. He said, I still wonder why they invited me here. But then we did see the sugar-free and the light trend, because in those years they were really starting to head toward the low fat, the no fat, away from the whole foods into the low fat, no fat, artificial sweeteners, that type of thing. So you can really see that there in that those commercials. So that's really all I have. I do have a couple more videos, but we don't have to do those. We could, but we don't need to.
Okay, well, I have another quote. Now, this one is, I saw Wheezy in the chat. I don't know if he's still with us, but if he is, this quote, he might find interesting. Public sentiment is everything. With public sentiment, nothing can fail. Without it, nothing can succeed. He who molds public sentiment goes deeper than he who enacts statutes or decisions possible or impossible to execute. Abraham Lincoln, 1860.
Wow.
So, yes. And then there is a couple more, if I may. So this one is, as a so-called image maker, I am torn between thinking about how I can best take advantage of this trend and where it is likely to lead us. It is not hard to picture a scenario, or it is not hard. Okay. Not unlike the dating game, where three candidates give their qualifications, smile, and answer questions about how old they were when they were allowed to car date, and the studio audience presses a button to indicate their favorite. Michael Deaver, public relations advisor to Ronald Reagan in 1987. And I find that to be very interesting, because I feel like it only got 1,000 times worse after having that particular Hollywood president, and then whatever we have, this reality TV show bankruptcy filer in charge at this time. So I don't know, it's kind of mind-blowing the amount of people that have been commenting, that have understood in positions of power the ability to manipulate public sentiment in whatever way that is, whether that is through the product placement, whether that is through behavior modification, nudging, causing division, reinforcing echo chambers, influencing political opinions, influencing support for war, all of these things that go into manufacturing consent, manufacturing engagement. It's really, honestly, it's so incredible. And then, like I said, we started at the beginning of this talking about a quote from Machiavelli in the 1500s, and it has only gotten exponentially more powerful today.
Yes. You know, I'll go ahead and so we've got some time. This other video is just 5 minutes. I'll go ahead and show it. Okay. That all right? Okay. I'll add it back to the stage and see if we got it there. Okay. So this is it. How ads persuade. So it's just a little bit more about thinking styles and how different ads have different strategies to appeal to different people's thinking types. And I did notice also you've got in the ads we watched just now, the older ads, you've got the auditory and then you've got the visual, because people do learn in different ways. So I think, and we know that music is a great manipulation tool. So to have a hook, like so many of those ads had a hook that stuck with you. And so still today, when someone talks about baloney, you know, I think of the Oscar Mayer baloney song, or Almond Joy or a Mound, you know, and you hear that song in your head, you know, and so they do tend to stick with us. It's amazing. And of course, you know, that's why they're used, because those songs, those little jingles do tend to stick with us. So let's just watch a few minutes of this.
Every day, you are bombarded with ads, salespeople, or friends trying to persuade you to do something like watch a new show on Netflix or try out a new diet. Those messages don't always convince you, but sometimes they do, and you might not even realize it's happening. Dozens of factors can cause you to agree or disagree with the message, and a lot of them have to do with how you respond to persuasion in the first place. But if you can recognize when you're being persuaded, it's a lot easier to stop and make sure your opinions are actually your own. A lot of researchers who study persuasion think about it in terms of what's called the elaboration likelihood model, or ELM, which divides your response to persuasion into two main categories. There's the central route, where you thoughtfully consider a message, or the peripheral route, where you make a decision using quick judgments or gut feelings. Most of the time, you end up using the peripheral route, like when you're watching a commercial and decide the actor playing a doctor knows what she's talking about because she's wearing a white coat. Obviously, it's good to think critically about some things, but we don't have time to do that for everything, so both routes are important and useful. It helps to recognize which route you're taking, though, so you can decide whether it's worth stopping to think critically about whatever someone's trying to convince you of. A few things can affect which route you take. Some are personality traits, like what's known as the need for cognition, which describes how much people like to think about things. People with a higher need for cognition tend to pay close attention to arguments, while people with a low need prefer to make decisions based on quick cues, like how credible someone seems. One experiment from 1986 showed that people with a high need are more likely to take the central route, while those with a low need tend to take the peripheral route. In the study, researchers presented a few hundred university students with strong and weak arguments for raising the school's tuition. They found that strong arguments were more persuasive than weak ones, but especially when students had a high need for cognition. You'll also be more likely to use the central route if a topic is important to you. If you're obsessed with good TV and someone says they found the best show ever, you might spend hours looking at its cinematography and writing before you decide to agree with them. But if you just want something to binge watch, you might not care about all that. If a TV-loving friend says Game of Thrones is the best thing they've ever seen, then that might be enough to convince you, especially if you hear it over and over and over again every Sunday night. I gave up. I finally watched Game of Thrones. Are you happy? The situation is also important. Even if you love the topic, you're more likely to use the peripheral route if you're distracted or don't have much time to think. Other factors are less straightforward, which is where persuasion gets complicated. For example, feeling an emotion can persuade you in a bunch of different ways depending on the situation. An emotion could be critical evidence, like if you're trying to figure out if a comedy movie is good. If you felt happy while watching it, that's a pretty good reason to decide that you liked it. Other times, your emotions can influence your opinions emotions without you actively thinking about it. If you feel good watching a commercial, for example, you'll probably feel good about the product too. Emotions can also affect how you think and how much you think about something. If you're in a positive mood, you might not think as deeply about what you're hearing. So the same emotion can persuade you in different ways depending on the context, but they can also make you more vulnerable to being convinced of something without thinking critically about it. The credibility and source of the message also play a big part. A 2016 study found that people who read a product review were more likely to think negatively about the product if they knew the review was sponsored. And that's probably because if we know someone was paid to say good things, it's harder for us to trust that the message is true, so we'll think more critically about it. We're also more likely to think harder about arguments if the message comes from someone in the minority opinion. In an experiment in Spain, students read a message that supported making green the official school color. When the message said the majority of students supported the idea, it didn't much matter whether the arguments for it were good or bad. The reader already thought it was probably a good idea, but if it was the minority opinion, they only tended to think it was a good idea if it had good arguments. Meaning that if you see lots of people sharing something on Facebook, for example, you might not think as critically about whether the content itself is actually making a good point. But if only one friend shares that opinion, the argument starts to matter more. So there are a lot of different things that can affect whether a commercial or a person will persuade you. None of them are guaranteed to work, though, especially if you realize what's happening. Your mind is your own, and when you recognize that you're in a situation where you're more likely to be convinced of something, you can decide whether it's worth taking a little bit of time to think about it. Thanks for watching this episode of SciShow Psych. If you would like to see more videos,
So I think that there are some interesting points made there. I would think that some of us tend to be more high cognition, in need of high cognition, because we think about these things so much. But then I also thought about, he was saying that if you see a post or an idea more often, you're less likely to critically think about it, which Ashley, you are talking about flooding the zone, flooding our algorithm, flooding our feeds. So if our feeds are artificially flooded with something, we're more likely apparently to take it on face value and not question it so much. Whereas if it's a small number of people who post an opinion, we're more skeptical about it. So I thought that was an interesting point. What comments do you have there?
Yeah, I agree. And as you had said, repetition is part of normalizing the product or the idea. So I think that if you truly want to have defenses up for this, then you would minimize your social media time and minimize your TV, streaming, movie, all of that time. You know, and like I said, I'm not saying like to do this. I know a lot of people in the comments already do it. Carl said that he stopped watching TV and things like that. And there's actually a book that is making the case for getting rid of television. So I think that's fair. But really, I think that because the tax cattle are kept so busy in day-to-day life, like as much as you want to be aware and cultivate awareness, like we're not getting by unscathed, unfortunately. I don't think like you've worked all day, you're dealing with your family, your kids, whatever, you go to the grocery store. Like, for example, if you've been keeping your grandson all day and you need to go run to the grocery store, you know how tired you are, right? And you're like, I need to get this, that, and it. So do you have 100% of like your top brain firing power to have the resistance against, you know, like trickery, as far as like eyeline placement for products and things like that? For example, just to thread a little bit more, they have the end caps in grocery stores, which obviously are eye-catching, and they design them intentionally for that to pop out, and the actual placement is just put where it is as well. And then they have like the line of sight products. That's what they want you to buy. They want you to be able to see it and reach it easily. And that kind of ties back in with what they're talking about as far as nudging. You're not being told what choices to make, but there's something there, whether it's placement, visuals, that make it easier for you to choose that product. And then the other thing that I would say is, many, many years ago, I went to this training at a university in South Carolina that was essentially an introductory course on all the processes of printing in modern day time. So we're not talking about like while they still print magazines and books. This is like industrial printing for, it can be for pharmaceutical products or for makeup, cosmetics, fem care, food, whatever that looks like. But one of the things at this school, it was actually Clemson. Clemson had their own printing department, and this was many years ago, and they were already getting in on 3D printing at that time. And they also had a faux grocery store set up. And they explained at that time that they would put, I don't know if it was like glasses or like virtual reality or something, but they would put readers on people's faces and they would study and track where their eye line went. So, and this also lends some credence to the cryptocracy, as Walter Boert discusses in regards to mind control, right? Because this is an institution, a private institution that's a university. But then we know that we have donors and funding and government subsidies and all these things. And what are we working on? And who knows what other corporations were involved in that as well. So I thought that was maybe an interesting aside, but I think I lost the track of your original question, Karen. Sorry.
It's okay. You're always interesting to listen to.
I was blabbing so bad. So
well, I was talking about watching my grandson, and then my defenses are down. By the time it's evening and I realize I don't have something I need for my grandson tomorrow, so I have to run to the store and get whatever it is that he needs for the next day. My defenses are down when I'm in the store, and there's placement at eye level, end caps, and there's also colors and the music or whatever in the store, the temperature of the store, the lighting in the store. All of those factors play into what I end up buying when I'm tired or I'm probably hungry.
Yes.
And I see those dill pickle chips or sea salt and vinegar chips as I walk on by. And usually I'm pretty resistant to that type of thing. But since they're at eye level and I might have to pass them, also where the items are placed, if you have to walk a long way to get the milk or something or the eggs, they make sure you have to walk by a lot of things. And I'm sure they're very calculating about what your path is to the back of the store, what's at eye level, even if it's in your peripheral vision. So you may end up with a few things in your cart which you didn't come to get, which is absolutely the plan.
100%. And in regards to your comment on lighting in the store, I don't know if anybody ever goes to Target. I rarely go, but I will say they supposedly were selling something that I wanted. This is getting into real nerd stuff here, but there's this book series called Dungeon Crawler Carl, and book 8 just came out. And they have, I don't know, it reminds me of like the good old days of waiting in line at Barnes and Noble, until midnight to get your copy of Harry Potter. Like, it's kind of like that. So book 8 just came out and people were really excited. And I was listening to the audiobook with a couple of people and talking about it. Well, they have just this little keychain for the books, Dungeon Crawler Carl. They're selling them at Target. But this is how they get you, because they're selling the keychains, but they're mystery. You don't know what they are. So you don't know which one you're going to get, right? So I was like, well, I'll just get 3. But then I was walking around Target and I'm like, oh, school supplies. I love these pens. These are so cool. I need to try 5 different kinds of pens. Sticky notes, say less. And then I was noticing, though, my point of this, when you're talking about different lighting, the lighting in the makeup department is top tier. They make it look like, I don't know, fancy. It looks inviting. Everything. So they have so many colors to the packaging and just like clear shelves with amazing lighting. And I avoided it, but it just is like if you are in a certain state of mind or have a certain weakness, like I may or may not, then you're like drawn to that like a moth to a flame. You're like, let me go look. Let's see what kind of goodies they have over here. So It's tough
You
in the
know,
streets.
I was a teacher for a long time, and my daughter was an art fiend. So you want to talk about school supplies. Every year I bought a whole class set, which this is like 25, 30. So I'd have extras of crayons, pencil boxes, pencils, colored pencils, markers, scissors, and then I'd buy a lot of other things too. But notebooks, like they used to sell the boxes of 20 notebooks for like $5 or something. So I would wait for Target to have their back to school supply sale, and I bought a lot, like enough stuff to supply a class of 25 kids. Plus, of course, my own daughter and her friends, and I always had to have some extra because they would come over, and what if they didn't have crayons, or I mean, you can't have a kid who doesn't have crayons. And a new box of like 96 colored pencils, that is like gold if you're an artist
Amazing.
kid.
Yeah.
So I totally, Target was the place to be. Plus Target had great clearance books. I bought class sets of dictionaries there. I bought enough atlases, world atlases. I found 10 world atlases on clearance. So that was enough for kids to, if they shared, to each have one for every 2 kids. So I bought thesauruses and a lot of books and things. Target used to be really great. I don't go there much anymore. I don't like the atmosphere at all anymore. I feel like it's gotten much more corporate and cold. So I'm not a fan of Target anymore, but I totally relate to being an ex-Target shopper and to the school supply thing, the Sharpies, the Post-it notes, the whole thing. Absolutely. I totally get it.
Yeah. So I think we're all susceptible, but maybe this has provided, I don't know, we've kind of come at this particular subject in many different ways, but I hope that it has provided people with some interesting food for thought. See what you notice yourselves. Feel free to share with us interesting things in regards to this topic as they come up. And, maybe we can work together to all cultivate a little bit of awareness, no matter where we happen to be on that susceptibility scale. I'll admit to being susceptible. So
I think we're all susceptible at some point. And sometimes I'm just like, what the heck? I want it. I'm going to get it. I'm tired. I worked hard all week. I'm going to get whatever, Diet Dr. Pepper. That's what I get when I splurge. And I know it's terrible, but I will buy a Diet Dr. Pepper or a bag of chips. It's not all the time, but it's once in a while. And sorry, that's, I was raised an American kid,
I know. This week I was like, I'm going to Starbucks and I'm getting a pink drink, and I don't care if that makes me a basic B. And I know that Starbucks sucks. Okay. Yeah. But this particular drink happens to be delicious. Yeah. And I'm stressed out at the moment. So I'm getting a pink drink.
A lot of it is the stress.
Yes.
It's the stress. And they know that. They very well know that. And this news cycle, chaotic news cycle, keeps us our hormones out of whack, our adrenaline system all wacky and wonky, and keeps us kind of vulnerable to those things probably at particular moments. Well, are we ready to wrap it up, or what do you think? You want to read out the chat or any more comments? I always enjoy seeing everybody in the chat, and we had a suggestion to read a Substack article and discuss it. So I wrote it down.
Yes, the multipolaristas from Hervoye of Geopolitics and Empire. Yeah, so we can check that out. And that was from Julia MR. So we can check that out, Julia, and see what we think about it.
Okay.
Good call, Karen. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm ready to call out the chat, or you can call them out if you want to. I have kept track over in the notes section.
Go ahead.
Up
Go
to
ahead
you
if you want to.
Okay. All right. And I will go ahead and say that if I missed anybody, I truly apologize. I tried very hard to keep track of that and to not miss anybody. So we had Spirit of the Age. We had LTO, Oracle of Truth, Be My Valentine, Ronnie Omelets, returning to us after some extended time away, Carl and Hanny, Nostradamus, Ghost Art, Doug-a-Lug, Do Not Obey, Jason Barker. So Jason is going on vacation for the next 2 weeks, but he was in the chat a little bit today, but he and his wife were taking JJ for kind of a family day at a local park. So he's going to be, he's going to have a little bit of a time off. So Karen and I are going to be holding this fort down. And we had Ricky, Anything is Possible, Bronx Stomper, James from Salcedo Paranormal, Sweets, D2T, Big Ron, iHandy, Doc Spoiler. And I did want to mention, I try to shout out Doc Rock. So I'm going to drop the invite to his Discord server in the chat. But also I wanted to say that the movie that he is presenting tonight starts at 7:30 for the pre-show. And it is from, what is this movie? Did he say?
He said, but I don't remember.
La Duce? Oh, God. Ronnie's going to be very upset with my pronunciation. It is set in Paris. Jack Lemmon is a policeman who falls in love with a woman who works the world's oldest profession. And hilarity ensues from there. So
Jack Lemmon is fantastic.
Yes, and his presentation earlier this week was of Jack Lemmon and Shirley MacLaine in the apartment. And I didn't get to watch the entire thing, but it was quite good. And Doc had a great presentation as far as he thought that this was one of these types of movies that was actually causing cultural changes because it was showing kind of like a Mad Men scenario where this advertising executive had he was having an extramarital affair, and it was kind of about that, but it was considered funny. But at the time, it was actually groundbreaking and a little bit scandalous. So his presentation on that was really good. And I pinned the link to his Discord in there. And so hopefully you can check that out if you want to. And Nosha said, yes, Tiger Tales tonight, of course. And if you join Doc's Discord, he has the Zoom link in there for you to access all that good stuff. Okay. Continuing on. Oh, yes. And Doc did my intro and outro for my podcast. So I just wanted to shout him out for that.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah. And he's been working on a lot of that stuff for a long time, many years now, like trying to get better at his editing and all that. But I just want to give him a little shout out there. Okay. Skunk Hollow Rose Gardens, A Dingo Ate Me Baby, TZ Burton, Linda Craig, Julia MR, What is Truth podcast, and Wheezy is going live at 5 p.m. today on Rumble, and he is having Ray from the Radical Truth on. So check that out if you can. That's going to be a really, really fun one. We also had Brandon Bennett, Denver Attaway, Will Tabox, and I hope that I didn't miss anybody else. So I think that covers that, Karen.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we appreciate each and every one of you, and I always enjoy seeing everybody and talking to everybody. I miss you when I'm not here. And I hope everybody has a good weekend. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Take time to be mindful and lower your blood pressure and relax throughout the day. It's easier said than done, but we all have that ability. There are several people in our community who need prayers. I may not say who they are, but they're for one of them is Deb McCartney's mom is going through transition, moving out of her home and moving into assisted living. So her mom is really struggling. Her name is Sheila. So prayers for Sheila would be really appreciated. And then other people, I guess we could just say prayers for everybody who needs prayers. Because there are a lot of people that are going through a lot of upheaval and health issues and things this time of year or this time in our history, it seems. I would like to ask you to please like the stream if you enjoyed it, and share it if you feel so moved, and subscribe. And we appreciate you so much for being here, for your time. And we're open to suggestions for the next couple of weeks. Like Ashley said, she and I will be here holding down the fort. So we're open to suggestions and topics, and it's always so great to have your input. So I think that's about it. Are we? You think so, Ashley? Okay. Then Ashley has her show regularly, and I'm looking to start mine. So that's why I was interested in who did your intro and outro. I'm hoping my daughter can help me with a graphic. So I'm working on getting there, but it's kind of a first time for me, so
I know. And every week I kind of am like, why am I doing this to myself? I get so stressed out. So stressed out like all day Thursday. And yesterday I felt like, because we had this show and I feel like there's some other stuff as, I've talked to Ronnie about this, but being behind on just everything that I want to read. And I feel like I'm studying for finals and I'm not ready, except for there's no class on the line. There's no degree on the line. There's no money on the line, but I'm like freaking out the whole day.
Yeah, and then I think, okay, does the world really need another show? There's so many shows already, so many people talking already. Do I really have anything that's any different or of any more value than what anybody else has to say? But I always enjoy spending time with everybody. So
yeah, I would say, in my opinion, it is worth it because, first of all, in philosophical terms or stoicism terms, challenging ourselves is always a good thing. So I think that there's something there as far as like creating a challenge for yourself and going through with it. And I think you could always say, like, I'm going to test 10 episodes. I'm going to make myself get through 10. And then I'm going to reevaluate. If I don't feel like this is worth the pressure or the stress or like the sleep I'm losing over it, then maybe I won't continue. But if I do feel like this has been worthwhile, facilitating worthwhile conversations, then I'm going to give myself 10 more episodes or whatever that looks like. But I have pondered the same thing and I was like, well, maybe nobody wants to hear what I have to say and maybe not. But I know that there's a personal challenge in trying to get these things organized, get myself live at a certain time every single week and have conversations with people that I am learning from myself. Mm-hmm. And so I think if nothing else, I hope we talk about something that maybe somebody else will be interested in or research or learn something that they want to pursue or, pursue learning more about. And if not, then it was interesting to me and I tried to challenge myself. Right. So I think you should.
I think you're right. Okay. So with that being said, everybody have a great week and a great rest of the day. And we'll say, keep your sword sharp, keep your armor tight, shine your light. And we wish Jason a safe and enjoyable vacation and everybody a good week. Bye-bye, everybody.